everyone, and welcome to Canvas and Cookies for January. We're going to be starting with the giraffe, and then if you want to go to the second video, that's going to be the snowman. Let's get started. We're going to take our big brush. Oh, I forgot to introduce my assistant today, Andrew. He's helping so that we don't go too quickly. So Andrew's going to paint along with us. All right, Andrew, take your big brush. We're going to work on the background and take a big scoop of yellow. So dry off your brush, tap it on your napkin, take a big scoop of yellow, a little bit of blue, just a little bit, and then maybe just a little bit of white. And guys, when I'm taking paint, I'm not rinsing my brush in between each, but what I am doing is going on the edge of my pile of paint so that I don't ruin the whole pile. Then I'm gonna take those three colors together, so yellow, a little bit of blue, and a tiny bit of white, and mix them up in a tight little circle. So I'm not painting the plate. I want all of that color for the background. Even though this is a small canvas, we still want to make sure that we have enough color to paint in. I'm going to get all that yellow in there and mix it up. Now, if you want your background color to be a different color, that's completely fine. And if you want it to be a little darker than this, that is also fine. I'm making it this light green, and you can see it's a little different than the original color, but it's pretty close. I'm going to move these over so I don't hit that. So what you're going to do is go all around the giraffe, and if you would like to use your little brush first to outline, that's completely fine. That's a good way of doing it. I'm just using the big brush carefully, and I might go back with the little brush in some of these tighter spots. You can also kind of use the corner or the edge of the big brush to outline, like I'm doing there, and then it's easier to fill in. Guys, we do have 3 rules here at Spirited Art. The first rule is this is totally your painting. So this is a really cute giraffe. He's got kind of a cap and a scarf on. In the painting, they're turquoise blue with pink, or even like a light blue with pink. They don't need to be that color, okay? You can make yours any color you want because this is your painting. Second rule, don't drink your paint water. Whatever you're rinsing your brushes in, that's only for the brushes. Third rule, keep your brushes in the water when you're not using them because this is acrylic paint, so it dries pretty quickly. And it'll dry in your brush and they'll get kind of gunked up and hard, and that's no good. If you have a little bit of streakiness, you might just want to add another layer of paint, particularly when the first one dries. How are you doing over there, Andrew?
Good.
Did you use green for your background, or did you pick a different color?
I used green, but I accidentally covered over the ball.
Oh no, that's okay. There's no ball on the end of his hat. We're gonna make that. Good point.
Oh.
You just go right under his hat. That's totally fine. There's no ball there. Not yet. I hope you guys are having a good new year so far. It was snowing a little bit last night, so we have a fresh coating, not too much, but just a little. So we got to make sure our giraffe stays warm with his hat and his scarf. And when you're all done the background color, you can go ahead and rinse your brush. Make sure you get under his scarf here too. We'll add the snowflakes later. The big white snowflakes. Okay. Andrew, how are you doing on your background? Are you good?
Good, yeah.
All right, so rinse your brush really well. Guys, yesterday I had some people who just swished their brush, look, they just swished it in the water like that, and yeah, some of it's gonna come off, but a lot of it's not. So I want you to touch the bottom of your cup gently, not hard, and then stir. That's gonna open up all those bristles and the paint's gonna come out, and it's really gonna clean your brush up. Now sometimes you might have paint on the metal part of the brush, which is called the ferrule, but most of the time a nice stir in your cup, touching the bottom with your bristles will get everything clean, okay? All right, so the next color that we're gonna do is the giraffe. We'll fill him in because we need to put the spots on top, so we need to let the yellow color dry. So I'm gonna take a scoop of yellow again, and just a teeny tiny bit of brown. Now you could use straight yellow if you want, you could. I'm gonna just put a little bit of brown in there, a very, very small amount to get just a little bit darker yellow. Okay, so a scoop of yellow, when your brush is clean, a scoop of yellow and a little bit of brown. I'm gonna actually add just a tiny bit more brown, a very, very small amount. Okay, and I've got this golden yellow. Sometimes I call this like a spicy brown mustard. It's kind of a darker yellow color. Okay, good, that's fine. You might want to add a little more yellow, Andrew, but I think you're good. I'm actually thinking I like your color a little better than mine. I'm gonna add a little more brown to it. All right, we're gonna paint in the giraffe. Now, you may want to use your little brush for this. That's completely fine. I'm gonna paint the bottom. This goes underneath. It's the very bottom section. It goes underneath the scarf. So it's the very, very bottom section. I'm actually gonna pick mine up because my easel has a lot of paint at the bottom. So to get to the very bottom, I'm just gonna pick them up. Okay, so that's section 1. Section 2 is his neck up here at the very top and right next to the head. And we are gonna outline this with brown, so if you go over a little, it's okay. And then his face. Not the very tip of his nose, that's gonna be brown, but the neck and the face. So you're gonna come right up to the line of his hat, come right up to the line of his nose. If you go over the nose, that's okay, because that's gonna be dark brown. See that? So we'll just paint right over that. All right, so 3 parts with that giraffe color, his head, the top part of his neck, and then the very bottom part, which is the beginning of his body, with that golden yellow color. All right, and we're gonna let him dry a little bit as we move on to the hat and the scarf. Andrew, you good on that?
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta get his head.
Oh.
So you're gonna get right here. And guys, if you have any drips, you could use a napkin to get it off, or maybe your finger too. Okay, that's a lot of paint, bud. Take some of that off. Oops. See those drips? You gotta dry your brush before you go into the paint, okay?
Okay.
All right, and you may wanna use your little brush to get in those small areas. Don't feel like you have to use your big brush. Look, I have a drip too. That's okay. All right, let's rinse our brush. So this is important, Andrew, check this out. When you come out of the water, you want to get some of the water out on the side of your cup. You can see the water fall down in there, okay? And then the rest, just gently tap on your napkin. You might have the color of the water, but you shouldn't see any paint in there if your bristles are clean, okay? So rinse that really well. You still have yellow in your bristles. All right, I'm gonna take a scoop of blue. I'm gonna take the tiniest bit of yellow. You only need a very, very, very small amount of yellow for this turquoise. Okay, so it's mostly blue with a tiny, tiny bit of yellow. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of white. Again, I'm gonna go on the edge of my pile and I'm just gonna take a little bit of white. You can always add more. And I'm gonna add that in. So a scoop of blue, a tiny bit of yellow, and a little bit of white. Like a corner of yellow and then a little bit of white. And then I have this nice turquoise color. Could you use light blue? Yep. Could you use pink for this part instead of the other part? Sure. Purple, anything you want. This is gonna be the base color of the hat and one of the colors of the scarf. Okay, that's a good color, Andrew. You might wanna put it on with your little brush, again, because this is a kind of a small area. So go ahead and do the very top of the hat. You're gonna come all the way down to where that puff ball is gonna start. You can kind of outline the brim there. You're not gonna fill in the brim yet. So we've got the full top part of the hat. And then I'm gonna go ahead and fill in all of the scarf. We'll put the pink on later. What you do wanna do is leave yourself that little line right here so you can tell where the top half of the scarf meets the bottom half, where it's kind of folded over. Okay, so I'm gonna leave myself a little line right there in between. And I'm gonna do the same thing here. So I'm gonna leave that pencil line open. I need to get a little more paint on my brush, but fill in that bottom part. I'm gonna get some more paint and then I'm gonna fill in the top part. Bless you. Come right up to the line on the top. All right, maybe you're even making this a scarf that you have. Maybe this is gonna look like a scarf that you have. Maybe the giraffe borrowed one from you, huh? All right, and then if I need to, I might use my little brush to come back in and fill in some of these areas. So I basically got the paint on, and I'm going to get my little brush. Andrew, do you need a little help, buddy? Okay. Oh, did it drip down? Okay, that's okay, you got it, you're fine. All right, so what you wanna do is go ahead and put your yellow back on the body. There you go. All right, no, you gotta make sure it's super clean, super clean. Let me see, let me just, all right, look how I'm doing this, bud. Stir, 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 clean bristles. Now go back into your yellow. This one, that's your body color, right? Paint that over that, yep. All right, and then I'm gonna give you a super clean little brush. You can put that in there. You can put that in here now. Little brush in that blue color, and you can paint right in there, okay? All right, so you can ignore me for a second, because I'm gonna use my little brush too. I'm using my little brush now in that blue color, and I'm just gonna go back and get in those tight spaces. Like right there, I'm leaving that pencil line, but here I want to come all the way down to the body. Okay, if I have a little bit of green, I see a little bit of green, maybe I didn't have the teal mixed, so I'm just going to go back over that. Take your time, Andrew. I know you're a little behind us. That's totally fine, okay? Okay. And then before I come out of this color, I'm going to take a little bit off to the side and add just a little more white to it. And that's going to be the brim of my hat. So it's still the same base color of turquoise. I'm just adding a little more white to it. And again, you could make the brim of your hat a different color if you want. But I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. And if it's not too much of a change, you might want to add a little more white. That's fine. I can add a little more white to that. And I'll just paint right over it. So there's the brim of my hat. If you would like to circle it off, this one looks kind of circular. You can actually just make the edges a little bit circular here. And fill that in, and then the hat is ready to sit there and dry a little bit so that we can decorate it. All right, so I'm gonna rinse my brush, and we're gonna go back to the giraffe now with that dark brown color. So I need to get all that blue out of my brush. All right, I'm still gonna use my little brush. Andrew, I can help you in a sec, but I'm gonna use my little brush in the straight dark brown. Dry it off first. Dry it off first, no matter what color you're using, because you don't want it to be drippy. Just that straight brown. And I'm gonna come here and fill in the nose. Now, a couple things on this brown. It can look a little bit streaky the first time you put it on. So you wanna fill this in, and then we'll move to another part, and we can come back and put another coat on. The other thing that you can do, if you would like, is to mix a little bit of black. So let's say we take a scoop of our brown and just add a little dab of black to it. That will darken it up, and it may make it so that you don't need to use a second coat. I still need to wait until that dries, but anyway, just showing you that you can make it a little bit darker the first time around. All right, so now we're gonna put some spots on the giraffe. And I'm gonna draw, they can be any shape. They're not really any particular shape, and in fact, a giraffe has different spots from every other giraffe. Even like a mommy and a child coming from the same family, they all have a different set of spots. All right, so I've got a spot on the edge here, and again, we might need to go over that again with the same color just to make it a little bit darker and more solid. And then here, I'm just gonna draw, you can kind of draw like a squarish shape if you want. I see that I'm picking up some of my yellow, so I might need to let my body dry a little bit more. But let's say I put one there, and I'll put one in the corner at the very bottom. And I'm gonna just make it a little curvy on the edge. And then I'll put one in the center at the very bottom down here. Okay, I gotta put a little bit on his neck. Let's put two small ones on his neck. So one right here, again, just like a curvy blob of a shape, fill it in. And then I'll put one in the middle. And if you want, you could just put your brush down and wiggle it a little bit, and that makes kind of a cool shape too. So that's all I need. And then with the same color, I'm gonna outline his ear. Bring the outline all the way around his face. Outline his neck. And the bottom of his butt, right there. So with an outline, you want to press lightly so it doesn't get too thick. And just go right around his body. It's easier to pull down too. I'm going up here a little bit because of all this paint down here, but basically it's easier to pull down on your outline. And then the last thing that we're gonna do with this color before we move on is we're gonna make a little half circle, like the bottom of a circle. This is gonna be his eye. So just a little half circle. And if you want to give a couple eyelashes, you can pull them out. Just pull them 1, 2, 3. You could put a couple more in there if you want. Fill it in a little. If that's too many, you can cut back in with the yellow. But anyway, if you want to put a couple eyelashes on there, that's fine. And then I think we're done with the brown. So let's let that dry. We'll come back. Maybe we'll put another coat on the nose just to make it a little bit darker. But I think at this point we can rinse our brush. Let's check on how Andrew's doing over here. Hang on. All right, Andrew. Were you trying to fill in the body again?
Yeah.
Okay. With that yellow color, let's just put on a little bit of yellow here. I'm just gonna add some yellow here, right over top of what you have on. Remember, guys, it's gonna be easier to get in those little sections with the little brush. Little brush, buddy. You can't do a nose with a big brush. There you go. Hold on. All right. There you go. You can fill in the nose. I'm gonna fill in. This is his neck. There you go. Now don't do the stuff on his neck just yet because this is all gonna be wet. Okay. And then here he is, he's a little drier. All right, good. Hold on, that's still wet, bud. That's still wet. Yep. All right, hold on. Let's do some stuff in the background and let all this dry, okay? And then I can blow dry it for you. All right, so little brush, guys. We're gonna draw some snowflakes. Little brush, super clean, because we're gonna be using white. All right, and dry it off because we don't want any drips. So we're gonna use straight white. And for snowflakes, you're just gonna draw an X with a plus sign. So we're gonna do an X with a plus sign, and it's all gonna have the same center, okay? Now, if you wanna just do the X and one line through, that's completely fine. And the other thing some people like to do, although this looks more like a star, is if you have the X, you can make that middle line longer. So some people like to do that. Now that's the base. As you can see in the example, you can add these little dots to the end of the snowflake. So I'm gonna put one more over here, and then I'm gonna show you the dots. Okay, so we're gonna put one right here. And guys, if you wanted to put a tiny one right here, you could do that. You could put them anywhere. Just don't go too crazy with them. All right, I'm gonna use the back of my brush in the white. And at the end of these, I'm just gonna make little dots kind of off the end. You could actually make them touch the snowflake too. They could actually be like literally right on the end like that. Oops, that wasn't a good one. You can twist a little bit or just touch right at the end. You'll probably get 2 or 3 touches and then you need to get more paint on your brush. And they do get smaller. Like the first one you do after you come out of the paint will be big. Then they'll get a little smaller, so you might need to twist a little at the end there. But it should make a nice little circle at the edge of your snowflakes. And if you don't like the circles, you really don't need them. Okay. Let's turn our brush around. Before we finish with the white, we're just gonna put a couple of crisscrosses right here. So just pretend like you're making another snowflake, X plus, and you'll get the start of that little pom-pom. You can make these a little bigger too if you want it, a little bit larger. All right, and then we're gonna add some other colors in there. You don't need to rinse right now because we're gonna make pink and we have white in our brush, which is what we need. So Andrew, if I wanted to make pink, I'm gonna take some white and then what other color am I gonna add in?
Red.
Red, yeah. So just take a little dab of red and add it to some white. That's gonna be a light pink. Depending on how dark you want your pink, you can add some more red. I'm gonna add a little more red. I don't want really a baby pink. I want more of a hot pink. So I'm gonna add a little bit more red to my white and I think that'll look good. All right, you need to have your hat and scarf dry before you can add detail. Mine looks like it's a little bit wet, so I'm going to very, very lightly, is it dry? Looks dry? All right, I'm gonna very lightly put on some polka dots here. For dots, you can either draw a circle like this and fill it in, or you can just put your bristles down and just rotate in a circle and you get a nice polka dot. So add a couple dots to his hat. I'm gonna add, or her hat, I'm gonna add a couple of strokes in here for the pom-pom. And then I'm going to add some stripes. Now you could put polka dots in the scarf as well, but I'm just gonna add some stripes to the scarf that's around the neck. So this is gonna be the stripe part. And they're just little lines. They're kind of curved because remember they're around his neck or her neck. You can put them all the way down the scarf. And they don't have to be real exact. They don't have to be the exact same thickness. I'm basically doing like 2 strokes next to each other, I guess. 1, 2, that's kind of my thickness. 1, 2 with my little brush. But they don't have to be. They could be thinner. Okay, and then at the very end, I'm gonna put all this little fringe. So I'm gonna start at the end of the scarf and I'm just gonna pull out and away. And those little strokes are gonna look like fringe. Now you might end up with kind of a blob of color there. If you do, like that, you could go back to your white. I'm not even gonna rinse because I still need this pink to outline. I'm just gonna get a little bit of white on my brush and I'm just gonna go in here and just add like maybe 1, 2, 3, and that, just a little bit of white in there and that'll look like they're separated a little bit. And that gives it more of a fringe look. The other thing that helps is if you don't have too much paint on your brush. Like see here, it looks kind of like they were running out of paint. So maybe if you paint all these stripes and then you have just a little bit of paint left in your brush, you could do the fringe and that'll give it like that fringe look. All right, last thing for the scarf is we are gonna outline everything in pink. So remember when I said you kind of want to know where those lines, where the one section of the scarf meets the other, and I'm picking up some blue here, but that's okay. If you let it dry, you won't pick up the blue. I'm gonna outline all of this and this. If you want to have a little bit different color pink for this part, you could definitely do that. So let's say I added a little more white or a little more red and I changed the color slightly. That would be cool. But you're gonna outline the whole scarf with that pink. All right. So my pink's a little bit lighter than the original, and that's totally fine. So now I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rinse my brush, I'm gonna get a little bit of that brown, and I'm gonna go over some of those spots. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse. And then we're gonna go over the spots, and I will help you in a minute, bud. All right, so I've got that brown-black mixture. Let's see if I still have enough. I'm gonna add a little brown, little black. And I'm just gonna paint over my nose. See how much darker that is now? It also doesn't look as streaky because it's got a coat underneath. So that's very, very dark, which looks good. Same thing with these guys. Look at how streaky it looks right now. And then when I put that second coat over it, it looks a lot better. Okay, if you're picking up any of the color underneath, you might need to wait a little bit longer to let it dry. And then the one at the bottom. Maybe go over your outline if it wasn't dark enough. I think all that's dark enough. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Last thing we have to do is just put a little bit of a highlight on the nose and maybe on the hat to show like where it's round. You can use some white for that. I just repainted the nose, so I'm gonna lay off that for a minute, but I will do the white on the hat. So let's rinse our brush really well because we're gonna use white. And this is the last step, just to put those highlights in. And in fact, if you wanna put some highlights on the scarf too, you could do that, depending on, my pink is kind of light, so I probably am not gonna do that, but you could certainly put some highlights. All right, so just a little bit of paint on your brush, you don't need a lot. And I'm just gonna go around the edge to show like where it's curvy. You could put a little bit in the middle if you want to. And if you get too much white on there, just go back with your original color. I'm gonna put a little bit of a highlight here, just maybe where some of the curves are found. And I'll try to very, very lightly put just a little highlight on here. There we go. I know my nose is still dry or wet, so I don't want to put too much on there. And then the only other thing, if you want to add some of that blue in the pom-pom, just to carry through all of the colors of the hat, you could do that. You could do, I'll go with our original color blue. I'm just gonna add like a couple strokes in there, 1, 2, 3, and that's it. All right, I hope you enjoyed painting the giraffe with us today, and you can stop the video and then get ready for the snowman. Or you could do your cookies now and take a break.